This week's Ear Scouts podcast is all about park hopping. We're going to share all of our best tips for making the most of your multi-park days at Walt Disney World. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. Hi-ho, everybody. This is Rob with Ear Scouts coming to you from our makeshift studio here in Celebration, Florida. Welcome to episode 10. The big 1-0, episode 10 of the Ear Scouts podcast, where we gather around the virtual campfire to talk about Disney World and Disney parks around the world. Also here in Celebration is the other half of Ear Scouts, Eric. Hi-ho, Eric.
Hi-ho, everyone. Thank you for being here.
As always, Eric is going to be keeping up with the live chat over on Patreon. If you'd like to join us live as we record each episode and hang out at the exclusive Patreon after party, head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. Back in Connecticut after a whirlwind trip to Walt Disney World, it's the host of Jessica Scraps on YouTube. Hi-ho, Jessica.
Hi-ho, everyone.
I know all of us who have been excited for your trip because you've been talking about this trip for a little while now. You were really excited to see Chewbacca and participate in the Life Day celebration at Jollywood. Number one, were you able to do that? And number two, was the wait as bad as you feared?
So, number one, yes, I was. And I got my picture, the magic shot photo with the Life Day orb. But as far as the line for Chewbacca goes, I did what I said I was going to do, which is I 100% knew my priority was getting that picture with Chewbacca. So we showed up, got our wristbands early, rode Rise of the Resistance because it was a 15-minute wait. And then lined up at 6 p.m. So the party didn't start till 7:30. So Chewbacca didn't come out till 7:30. So technically I waited an hour and a half in the line with 7 or 8 other people were there the whole hour and a half with us dressed. All of us were dressed in some version of red and Life Day stuff. So we were the true crowd. By 6:30, the line was probably 30 people long. By 7, it was looped back and forth 3 or 4 times. So I did wait, full disclosure, an hour and a half before the party started to get in this line to be the third person in line. But I know the people who got in line just 30 minutes after me probably waited 2 hours of party time. And I think that's the important thing that we talked about. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, is if you have a priority character for these parties, get in line early so you don't have to miss it.
Yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice. And I'm very glad to hear that you were able to enjoy your Life Day celebration with Chewie and you got a photographic memento to commemorate the occasion. Also with us from the wintry state of Indiana is our resident Disney World trivia whiz, Quizmaster Craig. Hi-ho, Craig.
Hi-ho, gentle listeners.
So as someone here in Florida who's just done with the 80-degree weather, which is back, I'm living vicariously through the Indiana weather. What's the temperature there today?
It was in the 40s, but it was pretty chilly out, but it was nice and sunny earlier this morning. So we'll take it because I think Wednesday, this whole half of the country is going to get blanketed. So
you're going to get snow?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. We'll get Snope. We'll get some Snope.
I just remember this. The very first time I went to Disney I think it was like 79 and it was over New Year's, but it snowed. It actually snowed in the Magic Kingdom that day.
Wow. Well, we are going to be shaking things up a little bit with this episode this week because it's the holidays. We've all got a lot going on. And frankly, I think Disney knew it was the holidays because it's been kind of a slow news week. They haven't really put out a lot. So we're going to kind of skip over news. There is some stuff we're going to talk about in Happy Thoughts at the end. But we're going to kind of jump right into Pressed Penny for Your Thoughts, where we kind of take a deep dive on a particular subject. And this one is kind of be a combination Pressed Penny and Question of the Week because we have gotten so many questions about park hopping over on YouTube, and that kind of inspired the episode this week. Lots of people just wanted to know generally, if you've never park hopped before, what are the things that people need to keep in mind? Even if you're a seasoned pro, maybe what are some of the tips that you might not think about that can make your park hopping day even better? So we're going to just do a deep dive on park hopping today. That's going to be the bulk of the episode. But I also wanted to let everyone know that we're going to take next week off so that everyone can have some time with their families. So probably during this holiday season, we're going to move back to an every other week rotation, but we will be back to our regular weekly episodes in the new year. But just wanted everyone to know, not going to have an episode next week, but we'll be back the week after that. So let's just dive in on park hopping. Let's start with just kind of everybody's general sense of when is it a good idea to park hop and when is it maybe not such a good idea to park hop? Why don't we start with Craig? Why don't you give us your thoughts on when do you think park hopping makes the most sense and when do you think maybe it should be avoided?
Well, I know personally, park hopping makes sense if I'm going for a shorter amount of time, or if I'm bringing somebody who hasn't been there before, and I want to show them as much as possible. But again, we only have 2 or 3 days. Park hopping's great for that. Um, Otherwise, like if I'm there for a week, I'm totally fine with one park one day. I kind of prefer that actually. Now, as an annual pass holder, some of the big perks of being able to park hop, getting to like the fireworks at a different park, if that's what you want to do at the night, it gives you that freedom too.
And just to, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but if you're brand new to Walt Disney World, and we do have some listeners who are brand new to Walt Disney World, what we mean by park hopping, as you can probably infer, we mean doing more than one of the 4 main Disney World parks in one day. So maybe starting at Magic Kingdom and then going to Epcot in the same day. Now, if you have an annual pass, that's included as part of your annual pass. If you are using a traditional ticket, you have to have what Disney calls the Park Hopper addition to your ticket, which allows you to do multiple parks in one day. It is obviously it's more expensive if you want to include park hopping, but the one thing that Disney does that entices you to still include park hopping on a long trip is it will get cheaper to add park hopping depending on how many days you're there. So if you're just there for 2 days, park hopping is really expensive as like a percentage of your ticket. If you're there for 10 days, park hopping becomes really kind of almost a no-brainer. Once you break it out over 10 days, it's really not much money to add park hopping. And I think Disney knows what Craig was just saying, which is a lot of people want to add the park hopping when it's a short trip. And so they make it a little bit more expensive to do it in that scenario.
Yeah, and when I was talking about that, there are times when I do, we'll go ahead and get the park hopper, but I don't even use it. I just end up staying in one park one each day. So
Yeah. Jessica, what are the reasons that you think you should definitely make your day a park hopping day, and what are some days you should maybe skip it?
I think park hopping adds flexibility. I think that to me is the biggest reason to have park hopping. I'm kind of not quite the opposite of Craig, but the longer my trip, the more I want to be flexible at the end of the trip to do the exact set of things I want to do. If I want to eat breakfast in this park, ride a ride in that park, and see a nighttime entertainment in a different park, with Park Hopper, I have that flexibility. And I'm not tied down to, I have to do everything in one park in one day. So for me, that's one of the things I love about park hopping is there's something I love in each park, and I can make that perfect day with park hopping. I think your first trip to Disney World should never be a park hopping trip unless you can avoid it. I think that's a kind of a key. So if I have people that either haven't been in a long time or it's their first trip ever, I typically do one park a day because I think it gets overwhelming. And we're going to talk all about planning. It's an overwhelming feeling to think about park hopping and transportation and all of the things that we're going to give you tips on. So I don't recommend doing it if it's your first trip, but if you're 3 or 4 trips in and you can put together that perfect day, that's when I love to park hop.
I think that overwhelming part, especially if you're going without someone who's kind of a seasoned Walt Disney World person in your group. For me, I would say the number one reason I like to park hop is if you're not new to Walt Disney World, if you know the things that you like to do, and this is kind of going back to what Jessica was talking about, I like park hopping because it gives you the freedom to be spontaneous. It gives you the freedom to kind of follow where your heart wants you to go at that moment. I mean, there's so many times when I'm at Magic Kingdom and I don't know, I just suddenly am like, you know what I really need to make my day amazing right now is a ride on Guardians of the Galaxy. And I can hop on the monorail and be at Epcot, within sometimes, 15, 20 minutes if you time the monorail right. And Guardians is right there at the front of the park. And that's just such a fun treat to just be able to enjoy everything that Disney World has to offer in the course of a day. And as crazy as it sounds, I personally love doing all four parks in one day. Those are my favorite Walt Disney World days. And a lot of people, they do just Disney World the complete opposite. They're like, no, that sounds crazy. I don't want to be running myself ragged all around the different parks. But for me, those are the days I just have the most fun. I just love experiencing everything in one day, especially if I'm using Lightning Lane, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, because your Lightning Lane works in all four parks. So I can ride all of my favorite rides in all four of the parks, but just pay for Lightning Lane once. So that's one reason why I would say I love adding park hopping into a day. But like everyone said, and I've learned this when we've had people come to visit the parks for the first time, I tend to overwhelm people. I I tend to want to show people the parks the way that I like to do the parks. And you can tell midway through day one, they're just like, okay, are we going to have a vacation at some point in the middle of this vacation? Because we're just rushing around and doing so many things. And if you're new to the parks or you just want to have a more relaxing vacation, you don't want to feel like you're getting so many things checked off a list in a day and doing so many things, then maybe, yeah, it's a better idea to skip park hopping and have a more relaxing vacation. What I want to do next, really quickly, is kind of a lightning round. I'm going to go through the four parks, and I want everyone to say for that park, do you think it is better as a starting park or an ending park? So if you were planning to include Magic Kingdom in your park hopping day, would you generally choose to have Magic Kingdom as your first park of the day or where you would end the night? And we'll start with Jessica this time. Magic Kingdom, where is that a morning park or an evening park for you?
I usually start the day at Magic Kingdom. And just because I feel like it's emptier in the morning, I can get more done. I like to start my day at Magic Kingdom.
Craig.
Magic Kingdom, evening for me. It's the fireworks, and now we have a nighttime parade finally. So that's why I would choose to end there.
Eric, morning or evening for Magic Kingdom?
Same as Craig, evening. Same thing. You have the fireworks. If you time it right, you can also get like the parade and the regular parade and the night parade,
Yep. I'm also going to go night. And for me, it's two other reasons that haven't been mentioned. One, Tron, if that's on your must-do list, 1,000 times better at night, in my opinion. And two, usually Magic Kingdom will close the latest of the parks. So if you're trying to get the most park hours into your day, Magic Kingdom usually makes sense as park 2. But I will agree with Jessica. It does tend, because of all the reasons we just stated, so many people park hop into Magic Kingdom, and they come for the fireworks especially. It does become pretty chaotic as the day goes on. So let's move on to Epcot. What do you think? Epcot morning or evening park for you, Jessica?
Evening, and a lot of that has to do with the festivals. Usually we're going to Epcot for a festival. Festival booths and World Showcase don't open till 11. So I usually like to end the day at Epcot. We've also talked about I am a Luminous fan. I think you've all watched me cry at it. So I enjoy those fireworks. So to me, Epcot is a end the day at Epcot.
Epcot's my evening jam. aside from Luminous, which I love just as much as Jessica, just strolling through World Showcase at dusk and into the night and the music and the vibe. It's my home. That's where my heart is.
Eric, morning or night for Epcot?
I will go with night. You have more opportunities to try the food in the booths, and well, second, like the fireworks show is just spectacular as well.
So I'm going to be the contrarian here. I prefer Epcot in the morning because number one, I think World Showcase just looks better in the daytime than it does at night. I think I love the architecture of the World Showcase, and I just think it looks great both ways. I mean, they do a lovely job of lighting it up at night, but for me, I just think it looks better during the day than at night. Whereas there are other parks where I think things generally look better at night, like Animal Kingdom. Also, of the nighttime shows, as we've discussed before, Luminous is not my favorite. I just think it's usually you can get a shorter wait on a lot of attractions first thing in the morning. I do think that especially if you have early entry, that is absolutely the best time to ride Guardians. If you can get that checked off your list during early entry. So I'm more of a morning person, but let's move on to Hollywood Studios. Jessica, morning or nighttime for Hollywood Studios?
Hollywood Studios, I usually go in the morning. Phantasmic is not my jam. So I think the morning at Hollywood Studios. Also, I like to try to get in Rise of the Resistance twice. And I can do that if I do it first thing in the morning. And usually the lines allow me to do that within a lightning lane as well. So to me, Rise of the Resistance is a big, huge draw. Also, everybody's going to Slinky Dog and Rise and Tower. So I can usually also get Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad at a lower wait time in the morning. So just a lot of reasons to me, the rides at Hollywood Studios are just meant for mornings, and the breakfast Ronto wrap, the plant-based breakfast Ronto wrap that you can only get in the morning at Hollywood Studios makes Hollywood Studios my breakfast park. So Hollywood Studios in the morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go morning as well. And even though I do love Phantasmic, but it for some reason that's the one that always ends up getting chopped for one reason or another. So like at the end of the night, we were too tired. It just doesn't happen, even though it's in the plans. So I guess that really tells me it's a daytime park for me.
All right, Eric, morning or evening for Hollywood Studios?
Evening, just so you can enjoy Phantasmic.
I'm gonna say morning for a different reason than what folks have mentioned, and that is I think Studios is such a great park for shows, and a lot of those shows stop at 4:30. And so it's hard to work them into your second half of your day if they all end at 4:30 because you're probably not even going to get to the park until, best case scenario, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And there's a lot of shows to see there. So that said, I'm going to agree with Eric. Is Phantasmic is my second favorite nighttime show, behind Happily Ever After. So if you've never seen it before, it's definitely the spectacular is the right word for it. I mean, there are moments that are just jaw-droppingly cool to experience. So if you've never seen Phantasmic, it's on your must-do list. You kind of have to make Studios your second park of the day. But otherwise, take advantage of the shows and go in the morning. And finally, this one I think is going to be a little bit controversial in some ways because I think there's an obvious answer that most people think for Animal Kingdom. But as we were talking about it before the show, there's some things to think about that maybe the obvious answer isn't the right answer. So, Jessica, Animal Kingdom morning or evening?
During most of the year, it's a morning park because it's the first park. There's a lot of reasons. It's when the animals are out the most on the safari, all of those things. When the tree lights up, and probably somebody else is going to say this, there's like a 2-month window. You guys would know better than me. There's only like a 2-month window. You can see it at night. So if you're in that 2-month window, go then. Other than that, it's a morning park.
And I think to clarify what you were saying at the beginning, it's usually the first park to open of the
Oh,
day. It usually
yeah, it's
opens the earliest.
mhm.
And so you kind of get an extra hour or two if you start there. Craig, what do you think? Animal Kingdom morning or evening?
Mhm. I even going to agree again and say morning. Um, as she said, the animals are out, all that's going on. My other thing I will say, if for some reason they're open earlier for whatever reason, like before, I think they open at 8 now. Is that pretty much general?
Uh, Usually, yes.
Yeah, but if I've been there like when it opened at 7. Early entry
Yeah.
started at 6 back then, and it was the most phenomenal day. Or actually, I was just going to say morning because we were out of there at noon and did everything we wanted to do. But yeah, the animals were just amazing at that time of day, and seeing the
Yeah.
sunrise. So that's my morning.
Eric, morning or evening at Animal Kingdom?
Morning, and especially because you can enjoy like the animal trails, and they are only open like early in the day. But
Mm.
also, if you're using Lightning Lane, that gives you a big advantage.
Yep. We'll talk about that in the Lightning Lane section, but yes, I always say you feel like you're cheating with Lightning Lane when you start in Animal Kingdom because there's a lot of things that make that the perfect way to start your Lightning Lane day if you're park hopping. We'll talk about that later, but I'm gonna say usually morning, but I'm gonna make the case for why evening sometimes makes sense. Number one, if you've got a crew of littles who are not going to make it past, say, 7, 8 o'clock, that's going to be their lights out time, then Animal Kingdom is a perfect second park of the day because that's when it's going to close. So you'll get to close out the park and you won't feel like you're missing out on anything by making that the second park of the day. And if you're lucky and you time it right, you're there at the right time of year, you might get to experience that park at night, which I think we can all agree Pandora at night is gorgeous. That land lights up beautifully at night. There's bioluminescent plants everywhere. There is a projection show on the Tree of Life, which a lot of times it doesn't even run during most of the year. So it's kind of a treat to get to see that. Um, but the other reason, and this is something that someone mentioned on Patreon before the show, they love doing Animal Kingdom second because the crowds are lower. Because everybody does Animal Kingdom in the morning and then they hop somewhere else, it does get really quiet in the afternoon and you can just, hop on ride after ride. Usually the last hour or two of the day, Expedition Everest is a walk on, which, as you all know, it is the best ride in all of Walt Disney World. So having a walk on for the best ride in all of Walt Disney World, that's a huge perk. But aside from those things, I would say it's either a first park of the day because, as everyone mentioned, it just makes sense to start there for a lot of reasons that everyone has talked about, or it's a good, what I like to call, sandwich park, meaning you're going to do 3 or more parks and it's really great to take advantage of the lower weights in the afternoon, but you're not giving up all of that park time when it closes early because you're going to go somewhere else and continue enjoying after Animal Kingdom closes. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about before we get into our tips, what parks do you all think go well together? Like, what, if you're doing Magic Kingdom, what do you usually pair Magic Kingdom with? And we can just go through each of the parks and you can just say what you usually pair it with and why, rather than going through them one by one. So Jessica, what do you usually pair with each of the parks and what's your reasoning?
I usually do Hollywood Studios to Epcot because of the Skyliner and also because normally that's a good break for us. Um, and I like to stop at the Riviera for lunch. So I think we talked about Bar Riva and the hidden gems. It's kind of how we like to do our day. So to me, that's a good break. And then contrary to I just said, I like Magic Kingdom in the morning, which I do. If I'm park hopping Animal Kingdom I'll park hop sometimes to Magic Kingdom to see Happily Ever After. And a lot of that is I won't do a lot of rides in Magic Kingdom that night. So I will do mainly Animal Kingdom, part, and then I will go over to Magic Kingdom and then probably just do People Mover, Haunted Mansion, and the show and the fireworks, because I do find that it's crazy busy sometimes at Magic Kingdom at night, and we don't always get lightning lanes when we park hop, so sometimes we're not there to ride rides. But that's the two that we usually do.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Hollywood Studios and Epcot. Hollywood Studios to Epcot. Like again, I love Any of the Day in Epcot, and you can even walk from one to the other or take a boat. There's so many wonderful options to get from one
Yeah.
place to the other.
Epcot and Studios are actually really close to one another if you look at it on a map. And as we've mentioned, the Skyliner, the boat, the walkway, those parks were originally conceived to be one park. Originally, Studios was going to be a pavilion of Epcot, essentially, and it kind of grew into its own park. I do think those make a lot of sense together. Eric, what are your park hopping combos?
If you like to go hard on Disney, I will go Animal Kingdom to Magic Kingdom, just because you can start like super early and you can end up like super late, and you feel like you have been productive. Now, if you want to take it like in an easier way, I will either do like Epcot to Magic Kingdom, and the main reason is just so you can use the monorail.
I like Epcot and Magic Kingdom together because I feel like it's classic Disney World, right? It's the two first parks. But I will say, on your first point, if you're new to Walt Disney World, you might not want to try to do the Animal Kingdom to Magic Kingdom. That is an exhausting, grueling day that I personally love, but most people find it to be a bit much because your day is going to start. Think about it. If you've got early entry, your day is potentially starting as early as 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning, and Magic Kingdom will usually close 10 o'clock at the earliest usually, but oftentimes it stays open until 11. So that is a massive day, but pretty good bang for your buck. If you're only using one park ticket, you get to do all that and spend all that time in the parks. Well, a lot of the things we just talked about when we were talking about what parks we like to match together revolved around transportation.
Yeah, as we were coming up with these tips, we noticed like a lot of them have to do with the transportation. So, first one for me is to start with the easiest access from your resort or wherever you're staying. So you can, get there as quickly as possible. If you're in an Epcot resort, you can walk to Epcot, you can walk to the studios. If you're at the Riviera, you can, take the Skyliner quickly. And conversely, same thing with the end of the night. If you plan on sleeping in a little bit and you're ending your night in whatever park, maybe you can do that closest to your resort. The thought of watching the fireworks at Magic Kingdom, be able to walk to the Floridian, the Polynesian, or the Contemporary, it is really a spectacular perk to staying there. And then you can do the triple dip as well, where you start in the morning, you're at the Magic Kingdom resorts, you start there, then you go to Epcot, the studios, whatever, and then come back to the Magic Kingdom just for the fireworks, because you can make it back pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah. It's funny, as someone who lives here, whenever I go to the resorts, it's either a staycation or I'm working on a video. And if I'm staying at a Skyliner resort, I am going to build everything around Hollywood Studios or Epcot. I don't think about it. Like, it's not something I consciously think about. I don't think it's just what naturally comes into my mind. Like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to be at Skyliner, so I'm going to do one of those parks. And same thing, if I'm on the monorail loop, I'm going to be doing most likely Magic Kingdom, but potentially Epcot as well. So yeah, I do think that that's a smart thing to keep in mind as you're planning out. Either start your day or end your day at a resort, at a park that matches up well with your resort, because it's going to make your life a little bit easier. For me, I think an important tip to remember related to transportation is, if you're planning on park hopping from one park to another, certain parks only are connected by bus. It is important to know what your transportation options are as you're planning out your day. For starters, you need to know what are the options to get you from park A to park B. But if it is bus, the buses will not start running from park to park until 10 a.m. This is not a problem with Skyliner. This is not a problem with boats, certainly not a problem with walkways. With all the other forms of transportation, they run pretty much as long as the transportation is running, it's running to all of its locations. But the buses going from park to park don't start until 10. So make sure you have that in your back pocket as you're planning out your day. Jessica, what is your transportation related tip for park hopping?
So John and I about half the time have a rental car. We drive because we stay off property. And having a rental car, sometimes we have to park. And here's the thing, you need to know where you're parking. So we start the day in Animal Kingdom, and I thought to myself, oh, great, I'm just going to take the bus because it's easier. That I don't have to drive to the TTC. I'm going to go straight to Magic Kingdom. I'm not going to have to deal with that. Well, guess what? Animal Kingdom closes a lot earlier than Magic Kingdom. And now I'm not stuck because they will get you home. They will get you to your car. But I had to wait a long time for that bus to take me back to Animal Kingdom. And you can't Uber to the parking lot. Like Ubers will not take you to a closed park's parking lot. You can't get there. So I had to wait for the Disney bus. So if you park your car, know the times of the lots. Also think about where your car is in relationship to your last park. The other thing I have done is I have parked at Epcot and monorailed back to Magic Kingdom because I knew I was going to end at Epcot, even though I was starting at Magic Kingdom. Maybe that seems a little weird to everybody, but for
Nope,
me,
I do
that
that all the time.
made perfect sense. So park your car where you want to come back to it sometimes, or you may have to move your car. But just remember that when you park, because sometimes I do think having a car is a great option. Your freedom, you don't have to worry about the buses, those kinds of things, but you got to be able to get back to it. So that was the one. I think that was the longest bus wait we've ever had, and I'll never do it again. I'll
Yeah.
remember after that.
I have done that bus wait, and I think I feel like they eventually just took pity on me and sent a bus over. And I was obviously I was the only person on the bus. I got there, my car was the only car left in the entire parking lot, which was an experience. It was an interesting experience, but not something I care to repeat. I do think it's important to note, though, you were talking about how they will get you back to your car. That is if it is connected by bus. Now this is a scenario that a lot of people don't think about. If your car is parked at Epcot and you are planning on taking the Skyliner over to Epcot and then going to get your car, the Skyliner comes into the back of Epcot, and they will not, if the Epcot is closed, they will not help you get to your car. That's not something like they will tell you that you're going to need to go to a resort that's within walking distance, and you would have to take a bus to a park that's still open, and then take a bus from there to someplace where you can get a bus to Epcot to pick up your car. Again, I think that goes back to know what your transportation options are and know how things connect. Eric, what is your tip? I think you actually had a tip related to driving, which is what Jessica was just talking about.
Since we're talking about like parking yourself, remember that you only have to pay once for parking, and that will allow you to go to the other different parks on the same day, and you don't have to pay extra.
Right. So if you wanted to just drive yourself around, you only have to pay once. And of course, if you're staying at a hotel or you have an annual pass, your parking at the parks is included for free. But if you don't have those things, it's expensive.
And I found out that if you pay the upgrade to preferred parking from an annual pass, it also lasts all day. Because I did that for one of the party days. Like I got preferred parking in the morning and then it carried to my party at night. So I didn't know that. That was something I just found out. So if you upgrade your annual pass to the preferred parking, which is just the delta in the cost, you get that all day too, which was really cool.
Is that specifically related to annual pass or anybody who pays for
Well,
preferred parking?
anybody that pays for preferred parking, you get it. It's just for annual passes, you only pay the difference in the two.
Oh, I did
So,
not know that.
so at least that's the way it was the last time I did it, which was a couple months ago. So you only pay the difference in the parking. So like if it's a $40 difference instead of 70, you pay 40, and then you get preferred parking all day.
On the subject of transportation, I kind of want to segue right now to Lightning Lane because a lot of the tips that we have to share are related to using Lightning Lane multipass, specifically when you're park hopping. But one of my Lightning Lane related tips is related to transportation as well. And that is that I think Disney transportation time is the perfect time to be booking lightning lanes for your next park or improving the lightning lanes that you already have booked. Because unless you're on the Skyliner, in which case you're going to be entranced by the beautiful views as you're flying across the sky. But for most of the other forms of Disney transportation, uh, especially the bus, there's not really a lot to do other than, a lot of people are just looking at their phones anyway. So I do think transportation time is the perfect time to play the Disney slots, as I like to call it. Just adjust your lightning lanes, get better return time so that you can get more lightning lanes added into your day. Craig, what lightning lane related tips do you have for park hopping?
Oh, this is a pretty obvious and simple one, especially if you're trying to save some money. And that is to start with the cheapest Lightning Lane multi-pass park, which is almost always Animal Kingdom. I don't know if it's ever been anything but. But the thing is, when you buy a multi-pass and you have park hopping capabilities, you don't pay extra. You can use that same park hopper for all the parks. So you can pay $22 for it in Animal Kingdom and then use it for the majority of the day in Magic Kingdom when it's going for $39 that day. Now there's a lot of caveats on when you can book. That's a whole nother episode, and I think we've talked about it before. But yeah, it's a great way to save money. A lot of people don't even realize that whatever your first park is, you pay that amount, and you can go to any other park if you have park hopping capabilities.
Yeah, I do that a lot, especially if I'm already planning on park hopping. A lot of times the price of multipass will dictate where I start my day, just because I do like to save some bucks. Jessica, what are your lightning lane related park hopping tips?
Particularly if you're an annual pass holder and you're staying off property, I'll just put that out there. You only can book your lightning lanes 3 days in advance versus 7 days in advance. So one of the big tips I have, and one of the reasons I like to park hop, is you go to your first park, which should be Animal Kingdom in this case, and you have unlocked the ability to book the next 2 lightning lanes at another park. And most of the time, the later times are available for the heavy hitters. So things like I've gotten a Slinky Dog at 7:30 at night. Well, I will just hold that Slinky Dog for 7:30, even though I'm still at Animal Kingdom. And then I might get a Rock and Roller Coaster at 8 o'clock. And I'll just hold those two because they were easily available. You didn't even really have to play the slots. They were available in the afternoon or at night. So I'm using those 2 slots. I'm holding the big dogs at my second park while I'm keeping 1 slot available. And I'm using that to just run through the lightning lanes at my first park. And that to me is one of the biggest benefits of park hopping with lightning lanes. So that to me is a good strategy for park hopping like this.
So to clarify for someone who's not as familiar with lightning lane, when you have 3 slots essentially, and when you tap in at your first attraction, that is what unlocks you and lets you book at multiple parks. And it lets you book multiple, what Disney calls tier 1 attractions. Initially, you're limited to just one of those heavy hitters, right? Those tier 1 attractions. But you can have 2 tier 2 attractions. They have to all be in the same park. But as Jessica says, if you start, especially at like Animal Kingdom, where you're at that park before that second park has even opened, right? You're there early because Animal Kingdom opens an hour earlier usually. You tap in and unlock, and boom, you're able to start booking. You can change those other 2 lightning lanes you have and move them into park 2. And as Jessica said, you can get those tough to book rides because the folks who are actually in Hollywood studios, they can't even do that yet because their park hasn't opened yet. So they're not able to start booking additional lightning lanes until they tap in at one. So I think that's a really great tip. And I think, and I also love the idea of kind of keeping that one slot open to just burn through the rides in your current park, but having your must do's at the second park secured. For me, I would still try to back them up as I had time, just because I'm nerdy like that and I just always want to be optimizing my lightning lanes. But you're right. If you're one of those people who doesn't want to be looking at your phone, you can just rest assured that the rides you care most about are done and you don't have to think about them anymore. So yeah, it's a good point.
That's right. So if you're me, you got It's a Small World and you're just ready to go ride It's a Small World when you get to Magic Kingdom. I mean, isn't that what everybody does?
I cannot condone booking a late time for It's a Small World and holding on to that all day. I don't think that's a wise
Oh.
strategy. I don't.
Okay, I'm telling you, there's going to be an episode one day on what would Jessica do, and it's going to crack everybody up.
That'll be an April Fool's.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Craig, what's your next lightning lane related tip for park hopping?
Yeah, this one actually comes from Jen from Patreon. And she basically said, learn how to use the slots. And if you've been an Ear Scouts listener or a viewer from YouTube, you know what the slots are. And it's basically refreshing the screen when you're trying to get a good time for a lightning lane, or the tap in, tap out method, again, without going into all that. But there's lots of videos from Ear Scouts, and we talk about it on the podcast as well. But she said that that's an invaluable tool. A lot of people don't really know how to take full advantage of that stuff. So a little research before you head out, always a good thing.
I always appreciate the plug, and I do agree though. If you don't know how to get the most out of Lightning Lane Multipass, that is going to further complicate your park hopping day because it does add a layer of complexity. Eric, do we have anything from the chat? Any suggestions for park hopping that have come in from our friends on Patreon?
So people are just commenting about like why they decide to get a park hopping ticket. Like Rob, this list Rob mentioned that for him it's always a financial decision. If it's a long trip with the whole family, I don't. If it's my wife and I, short trip, I do park hop.
Yeah, so because if you have a large group of people, obviously that adds up, right? I mean, it's times 4 or 5 or however big your party is, that gets real expensive real fast. Yeah.
For Lisa De Pinto, my biggest thing with park hopping is the freedom to pivot. If it gets insanely crowded for some reason, I can head to a different park rather than get grumpy because there's too many people. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that one, but that's very true. That if you get to the park and you're like, oh, I feel like I made the wrong choice today. Everyone is in this park right now. You have the ability to pivot. That's a good one.
Ray and Lauren, we like to park hop a lot of the time to allow for dinner options. We like to eat in Epcot a lot, especially if we are there during a festival.
I have one last park hopping related lightning lane tip, and this one is really important, but this is one of those that we'll just say while it works, because I think at any moment this could change. But as of now, the way that Lightning Lane currently works is you book it, you have an hour to ride the attraction, but then you have a grace period on the end of that hour. It will still allow you to use that Lightning Lane. It will still glow green, essentially, is what we say. So when you tap in, the little circle is going to go green, meaning you're allowed to board. And that's going to continue to happen, at least currently, for an hour and 59 minutes after it expires. Now, once you hit 2 hours after the expiration, poof, it's gone. But here's the other reason that that's very valuable when you're park hopping. Let's say that you had a lightning lane first link key at 2 in the afternoon. once it hits 3 p.m., from 2 to 3 p.m., once it hits 3 p.m., that lightning lane has quote unquote expired, but it opens that slot up at that time. So at 3, you could book another lightning lane at 3 p.m. and still have Slinky there. And Slinky, remember, it's going to continue to go green for an hour and 59 minutes after that expiration time. So I've been able to book another lightning lane in addition to my Slinky. Let's say I booked, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. So now I've got that lightning lane too. And as long as I get to Slinky before it's an hour and 59 minutes after it's expired, I'm golden. I can still ride. Now, the caveat here is technically, according to Disney, the grace period is only 15 minutes, but in everyone's experience that they seem to have programmed the tap points to accept up to an hour and 59 minutes. That could change, that could go away, but as of right now, that still works. So the reason this is helpful, if you think about it as part of your park hopping plan, normally you're limited to 3. But if you use this method of using that grace period time, you could potentially have as many as 6 lightning lanes, all booked. I mean, that would involve some pretty some pretty fast moving when you got to your second park. I'm not saying you should try to get 6, but in theory, it's possible, right? Because all 3 of your lightning lanes could have recently expired and, you're still going to have time to get to them and you could book 3 more. So using that grace period is a great way to get more lightning lanes in your second park of the day. Let's just kind of talk about some just more miscellaneous tips.
Yeah, so we had some that didn't really fall into the transportation or lightning lane category. And kind of my first thing that I think about with park hopping is when I had younger kids, a lot of our days were planned around reservations for food. And I know we've talked about it before on the podcast, but you have to really know what characters your kids want to see, what meals are really important. And some of those are really, really hard to get. So if you get a Cinderella's Royal Table breakfast and you get a garden grill dinner, you're going to park hop from Magic Kingdom to Epcot. And sometimes that's what you need to do. Those reservations are harder to get than park hopping. They're harder to get than lightning lanes. And when I had young kids, I bought park hopper tickets because that's the way I could get the reservations for the meals and the characters they wanted to see. So my miscellaneous with park hopping is allow park hopping to help you get to the dinner and dining reservations that matter most to your family. And, there's nothing wrong with saying that seeing Chip and Dale at Garden Grill really is the most important thing to my kids. And that's what I'm going to prioritize. And that's something I've seen a lot of parents do. And I think that's a good thing. So dining reservations come first, in my opinion, and then you plan your park hopping days around which reservations you got, um, particularly to me with littles and those characters.
I'm always all in favor of making dining one of the most important parts of your Disney World day. Craig.
It's usually the most important part of my day.
Craig, what is your first miscellaneous tip?
Okay, and this is a theme that I think we'll talk about a little bit more with these, but this is to not plan 2 crazy open to close park hopping days in a row if you can avoid it. It's a lot. So, I mean, if you plan on park hopping, if you plan on getting there early entry and staying all the way to closing or beyond, plan a nice quiet day after that if you can. Because I guarantee you, by the time you hit sundown on the second day, you're going to be out of it.
I've done that. I mean, I've done the 2 days in a row, and man, do I regret it on day 3. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that one. And I'm going to add to that. My tip would be to also just be realistic with what you can actually accomplish in a park hopping day, because even if you spend all day in a Disney park, you're not going to be able to do it all. And that's spending the whole day in that park. When you're park hopping, you've got half of a day and you got to make time for transportation to get from park A to park B. So I would say just what I like to do, make a short list of your must do's in each park. And I emphasize short list, and then add in your nice to do's, right? The things that if you look at your watch and you're like, wow, we actually have some time before we need to worry about park hopping, work in those nice to have rides and attractions, but don't don't plan too many must do's because you might not be able to do it, and you don't want to feel frustrated and disappointed that you're not able to get everything that you thought you were going to get done in your day. And if you go the other route, you're just happy that you got some extra things worked in that you didn't think you were going to get to do. So Jessica, do you have a tip related to that?
Yeah, so my other tip, and I think I mentioned it when we said what are my two parks I do together, and that is use park hopping to your advantage for taking breaks. So, for example, my when I do Hollywood Studios and then I go to the Riviera and we take a break at Bar Riva or inside at the coffee house, and then we get on the Skyliner and we go to Epcot. So, use park hopping as a way to take a break. And maybe you go back to your resort or maybe you go somewhere else, but you're basically if you have littles too, the little kids, the afternoons, treat it like almost 2 days. I do a morning in a park and I, see everything I want to see. And then I come and I take a nap or a break and I rest. You can do a morning to close if you take a big, nice break in the middle. So that's kind of my tip.
I completely agree with that one. Craig, what's your next park hopping tip?
Yeah, and this one we did kind of touch on earlier too, and I think this has to do more with whether to get a park hopper or not, and that is to consider the nighttime entertainment and spectaculars, the fireworks shows, the phantasmics, being able to with my Christmas trip coming up, it was kind of obvious we needed park hoppers just because we want to do the fireworks in Magic Kingdom for that, but we only have a couple days. So to see everything, we just want to see the decorations. We know it's going to be crazy busy, and we're going to park hop over Christmas and Christmas Eve, and the day after Christmas is going to be awesome. But again, that's just something to plan around those nighttime things. So that's a huge one for me for sure. I find myself planning around that more than anything.
Agreed. And Jessica, I think you had another tip related to kind of pacing yourself for a long park hopping day.
Yeah, and this comes to more into play, I think, in the summer months, which for Florida is what March to November, the
I
summer
think it's
months.
every month except for like one, or if we're lucky, two. That's
Yeah,
that's the summer months. Yeah.
it is particularly Animal Kingdom and Epcot are big, huge parks with not a lot of shade. Do those either first thing in the morning or last thing at night. Plan your park hopping days to stay out of the sun. And as somebody who has showed up at Epcot and had to go all the way back to Remy's to get a lightning lane at 1 p.m., that was the hottest, longest, worst walk of my life. And if I had planned and started or done Epcot much later in the day, it would have been a much more enjoyable, leisurely walk.
Yeah. I generally try to avoid doing much in the middle of the day. Number one, because it's hot and miserable, but also number two, that's when the park is the busiest. That's when the crowds are going to peak around 2 in the afternoon. That's when everybody who's going to come has gotten there, and not early enough that people started to leave. And that's a great time to relax, go see some shows, go enjoy a dining reservation. Don't hoof it around the park, and try to get in those really long lines during that period of the day because it's just miserable. I agree. That's going to do it for our park hopping tips. If you have more questions about park hopping, do let us know in the comments over on YouTube, or join us at patreon.com/earscouts. We have a lively chat over there where people are always happy to help out as you're planning your next Disney World vacation. But before we all go and plan our next Disney World vacations, it's time for Happy Thoughts. This is the final segment we like to do at the end of each show where we just share a little something that made us happy this past week. It's usually Disney related, but it doesn't have to be. Jessica, what is your happy thought this week?
So, as we alluded to, we just got back from a very quick trip, and there were two things I needed to do. The first of which was Life Day, did that. But the other thing is, I needed to go to Animal Kingdom now that the best character in all of the Disney universe is finally there. And she was there, and she has her own show. It should be called Judy Hopps and Zootopia Together Day, but it's not for some reason. So I waited, and somebody asked in the Patreon earlier, the ride itself or the show itself, I never saw more than the 15-minute wait while we were there. But the line to meet Nick and Judy got up to an hour while we were there. So if, like me, that's your main thing to do, I would make a plan for that. But I did get to meet Nick and Judy, and it was amazing. And I saw the show, and I loved every second of it. I loved all the Easter eggs on the line. I had the best time. I do have a wah-wah kind of a thing, though. I will say, because I've talked about it over and over again, the buffalo chicken chips that I loved from Trilobites, they moved them to 8 Spoon Cafe, and they're not the same. It's not the same recipe. It's a totally different buffalo chicken chips. So if, like me, you loved the old buffalo chicken chips, these are not the same. It's more of a fajita chicken with some buffalo sauce. It's not the same. So I just wanted to tell people that because I know I've talked about it a lot, but overall, going to Animal Kingdom, we got to see the Merry Menagerie. We got to see Judy and Nick. We had one of the best safari rides. We were there for 3 days, and we went to Animal Kingdom 3 times. So it was a great trip.
Well, any trip to Animal Kingdom is a happy thought for me because it's my favorite park.
Mine too.
Craig, what is your happy thought this week?
So my happy thought is just an extension of my happy thought from the last episode, which was about me booking a quick little Christmas trip from the 24th through the 26th. And my big plan was to wake up on Christmas morning and be at the gates of Magic Kingdom early enough for early entry. And just that's how I'm going to spend my Christmas morning. Heal a little bit of that tortured child things from my youth, But anyway, so I had booked at Old Key West, and one of the nice things about Disney Vacation Club or DVC is it's easy to put in a wait list. If you can book a room, but if you really want to stay at another resort, you can put in a wait list, and if it comes available, it just automatically happens. And so now I'm going to stay at the Polynesian Island Tower on Christmas morning, get up early, and be able to walk to the Magic Kingdom. And I'm so excited about that. Waking up at my favorite resort with my favorite person, going to my favorite place in the world. So that's my happy thought.
That's a lovely thought. And I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas morning. And who knows, maybe we will see you. We'll see you there at the park. Eric, what is your happy thought this week?
My happy thought comes with Jessica and John. While they were here, we were able to enjoy like some time in Disney Springs, and just the fact that we were able to listen to the singer and enjoying some enchiladas with Suizas a Frontera was like pretty nice.
Well, that singer was amazing, right?
He was. It is Bradshaw, Jared Bradshaw, and he is a Disney cast member who happens to be in the Finding Nemo show in Animal Kingdom. But he also has a Bing Crosby kind of. It's not what you would call what impersonation. It's more just like a Bing Crosby style White Christmas show.
There were certain moments where he sounded exactly like Bing Crosby.
Yeah, he sounds like him. He doesn't look like him. So I think that's what. Yeah. But if you happen to be going to Disney Springs, he's like every Friday from now until Christmas, and it was It was amazing. And my best part of the whole thing is we're sitting there and Rob leans over to John and goes, "You know, he'd be a lot better if he had a band." And then what does he say? He goes, "Well, you know, guys, I'd be a lot better if I had a band. And next Friday, I'm going to have a 6-piece band." So it was like I felt like maybe he heard you say something, or I don't know, maybe, but
I hope he didn't. That would
no,
be so rude.
no, I don't think he did. But he's going to have a live band also later in the season. So that was also great. I like that, Eric. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing about his show, he's amazing, and he's there with a trio of backup singers who kind of play the role of the Anderson sisters from the
Andrews.
old Andrews. Sorry, the Andrews sisters. Thank you. So they play the role of the Andrews sisters. There's that classic White Christmas album with Bing Crosby and the Andrews sisters. And the thing is, though, that style of music, it's kind of like big band style music. And you need some live, you need a live band. You really do, to make that really come to life. And I'm so excited. I have to go back and see it with the full band. I'm really pumped
If
for
you
that.
can record some of that, some of us would love to see that.
Well, my happy thought is that we finally got some exciting news about the opening of World of Frozen at Disneyland Paris. I really desperately want to go back to Paris, and Disneyland Paris is just, I love that park so much, and I can't wait to see World of Frozen. And today they unveiled an adorable walk around Olaf animatronic, and he's so cute. He's tiny. He's Olaf sized. I mean, it is Olaf. And if you go on social media, there's actually a YouTube video. I think we call it Imagineering episode that's on YouTube. You can kind of see a behind the scenes of the creation of that Olaf animatronic. But the big news is the opening date of World of Frozen at Disneyland Paris Resort. It's going to be March 29th. So start planning your trip to Paris if you're a big Frozen fan, or, I think it's always a good time to plan a trip to Paris if you can make it happen. So I can't wait to go back and experience that for myself. But until then, we will look forward to seeing you all again, not this coming week, because we're going to take a week off, but the week after that. And until we meet again, keep thinking happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you real soon.